have a pan that's been well cared for, it's effortless to maintain it. Simply just wipe them out, give them a light coating of oil, and then heat the pan up, wipe it out, wipe out any of the excess, and it's good to go back in the cabinet. On this little segment here, I have a couple of pans that have been neglected. One of them had been thrown out. It was completely rusty. We're going to soak that in a vinegar and water solution. I'm going to bring it back to life, and I'm going to show you how to restore an old gem like that and make it into a fine piece of cookware. Now this fry pan here I picked up, it was in a pile of garbage. It's a good old pan. Obviously it's got some rust here that I've got to remove. And the way that I'm going to go ahead and attack this, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to mix up a vinegar and water solution, and I'm going to let the pan sit in here and soak for about 8 hours, and then I'll check it and rinse it off, and if I feel it needs to go any longer than that, then I'll soak it for the amount of time that I feel necessary. Okay, this is going to be about a 60-40% here. About a 60% vinegar to 40% water. Get that pan in there and let that soak. Now let's take a moment here and we'll look at some of the brushes that I use on the iron and some that I avoid. Now this here I will never ever use on my ironware. The bristles are made of steel, and steel is a lot harder of a material than the cast iron is. Same goes for this brush here. It has very, very coarse steel bristles. If you scrape away at a cast iron pan with brushes like this, you will scratch the hell out of it, and scratching my ironware is something I want to avoid altogether. I might use something like this on the frame of an old truck, but you will never ever see me using an implement like this on my ironware. Now this brush here is ideal. It's got soft bristles made of brass, and you can scrape away at the rust on the pan without ever scratching the fry pan. This is an ideal implement for removing rust from neglected cookware. Now the plastic brush does a nice job of scouring a pan, certainly won't do any harm to it whatsoever, but it's not going to be as effective at removing rust as this one with the brass bristles. This one here is best to use more at removing stubborn food particles during the cleaning process. Now the coarse steel brush and that disc to be used for a drill, there's a time and a place for everything, and my kitchen's not the place for it. That stuff's going to stay out in the barn and be used for rusty farm equipment and stuff like that, and certainly not my fry pans. Okay, this is the pan that's been soaking overnight. It's heavily rusted. You can tell by the color of the water that some rust is lifted. We'll get this under the faucet here, run some water on it, and give it a scrub. Now this vinegar solution here, I'm not going to throw it out. I'm going to put it back in the bottle, and it's going to be reused on pieces of cast iron that I find in the future that folks toss out. There's no reason to start over with fresh vinegar. This will serve its purpose over and over again. Now this brush that I'm using here is very fine brass bristles. It's very soft. I'm not going to go at this pan with a disc that you put on a drill or a very coarse scrub brush or anything like that. And you can see the rust is lifting off of that pan very nicely. I'm not attacking this pan with a coarse bristle brush. Certainly not using a drill with a disc. I don't see any reason to do that. That vinegar solution will lift that rust very easily. I'm not working real hard here. Now the rust is removed from that pan entirely. It's in good shape. Not all scratched to hell. Was minimal effort. I didn't have to scrub that very much. The vinegar solution did all the hard part for me. So I'm going to go ahead and dry that off, put some heat to it, and start coating it with oil. Now when you're refurbishing a fry pan, and taking it back to the bare iron like I'm doing here, you don't want to take a soaking wet fry pan and put it directly on your heat source. Sometimes they will start to rust that way. You want to take a cloth, wipe out all the water that you can see, and then put the pan just on a low to medium heat and let all of the moisture evaporate from the iron. And now I'm just going to heat the pan up a little bit, and I'm going to start coating the inside. The inside's the most important part because that's where I'm going to be cooking. So I'm going to give this a few coats of oil with the rag, and then after that I'm going to coat the whole thing, and I'm going to let it go through several processes of seasoning in the oven. Now I'm not attempting to put any oil on the underside while it's on a burner. Just concentrating on the inside to give the inside a head start before we coat the whole pan and put it in the oven. Now all I'm doing here is just allowing the pan to heat up enough to have the pores in the iron to open up and accept the oil. If you're putting oil in here and it's smoking like crazy, your pan is too hot. Burning the oil serves no purpose and can get very, very dangerous, especially when using a light oil like the olive oil. It has a very low flash point. Now you can see that this pan here is really drinking up that oil. I'm giving it very light coats. I'm on a low heat. It's really absorbing that oil. Having the pan too hot and have that oil burning off really serves no purpose. I'll give it another coat. Beautiful. Now when I take an old junker fry pan that I got for nothing, and I just spend a little bit of time on it, and I restore it back into a really nice piece of cookware, it makes me feel good. So I like projects that make me feel good. Sometimes I'll take a pan like this, I have plenty of them, so I'll restore it back, put it on eBay, you might get 20, 25 bucks for it, and that makes me feel pretty good too. Now you can see here that the pan is already absorbing some oil. Some spots have already become saturated while other spots are still drinking it up. Allowing these puddles to dry will result in the seasoning to be uneven and leave me with a sticky fry pan. Dispersing the oil will allow the pan to absorb the oil in thin, even coats, which will always offer the best results. Never try and rush the process with using thick coats of oil. This pan got taken right back down to the bare iron. I gave it about 6 different coats on top of the gas burner. Then I gave it one nice even coat inside and out. I put it in the oven and I let it bake for about an hour. And I took it out and I gave it another coat inside and out again, and I baked it for another hour. Now since this is starting right off from the bare iron, it's going to take quite a few different coats to get it to get caught up like a good old seasoned pan. But I think even at this stage right now, from the looks of it, it's got a nice sheen to it. Nice even seasoning, and I'm going to go ahead and give it a try and fry an egg and see how it goes. Yeah, the pan's got a nice sheen to it. Looks like it's taken on a good coating. Even though I'm kind of jumping the gun here, I'm going to go ahead and fry an egg and see how it goes. Well, the way it's dancing in the pan there, it doesn't appear to be stuck to the pan at all. Okay. Look at that. That didn't stick at all. There, nothing stuck on that pan. That egg slid right out. And that is pretty amazing, isn't it? This pan was coated with rust yesterday. I put it in the vinegar bath. I let the vinegar do all the work. Just took minimal effort. Barely scrubbed that pan at all. And then did a few coats of seasoning on it. And this pan will only get better over time. Every now and then when I'm baking something in the oven, I'll just give this a wipe and I'll put it in with whatever I'm baking, and let this pan and the seasoning will get better and better and better. Well, I'm going to cut this egg up for Frankie. Frankie can have the egg. Hey Frankie, want an egg? Come on. Come on, I got an egg for you. Right there. That fry pan work out okay? Well, it looks like we got his approval.